A big hello to all my cute little champions. I hope you're doing great and your KCET preparation is going on really well. Well, today let's get into the one short video for the chapter that is ecosystem. So this video is going to be completed within a short duration, so you do not have to be worried about anything. Just listen to me very carefully and you would have the notes. It's just the concise thing, whatever is there in the NCERT, the concise version of it would be found in this particular PDF. Yes? Now going ahead. First question to you guys, what do you mean by ecosystem? So can I say that ecosystem is all the living things that I see and all the non-living things as well? That is living as in me, you, the animals and everything, and the abiotic factors such as sunlight, such as water, such as soil, all these things. So interaction of the biotic and the abiotic components, my dear children, it forms what? An ecosystem. So whatever is important, I will be choosing that and I will be talking about that. Okay, so that forms the ecosystem, and in ecosystem you would be having so many different species of plants and animals and to organisms and everything. Now there is a term given in your NCERT, that is what? Stratification. What do you mean by stratification? It is the vertical distribution of these species, my dear children. For example, trees, if you see, they are long, right? So they occupy the top layer. They occupy what? The top layer. The shrubs which are there, they occupy the second layer, and the herbs and the grasses, they occupy the bottom layer. So the distribution of species, my dear children, what do you call this distribution as? You call this as stratification. On bottom, what do you have? Have you seen the grasses at the top? No, my dear children, it's always on the ground level, right? So it occupies the bottom layer, and then comes the small shrubs which occupies the second layer, and the third layer is occupied by what? The trees. Now, ecosystem has little functional units. It functions as a unit, my dear children, and it is very important for you to know these four things that we get from the ecosystem, and that are the functional unit of the ecosystem. One is productivity. Yes, ecosystem should be good in producing the organic matter, otherwise how would the organism sustain? We need carbohydrates to sustain, my dear children. So productivity is one major thing. Second thing, decomposition. So the dead and the decaying matter, if it stays like that, don't you think it will be a big problem? Yes, it will sting very bad. And apart from it, whatever important nutrients are stuck in this dead and decaying matter, if it is not going into the soil, will the soil get replenishment of the nutrients, my dear children? The plants have to grow, right? The plants have to grow, and for them you need replenishment. So this decomposition is also very important. So ecosystem plays a major role in what? Productivity, decomposition, and what? Energy flow. For example, I sit like this and I say, I'm not giving my energy to anyone. So basically, can it happen like that? No. Basically, whatever energy is there in me would be passed on to the next organism that feeds on me. Probably when I die, okay, the dead and the decomposers that we have, they would be feeding on me. Whatever is there. Anyways, there is an energy flow. Or a tiger. Tiger will be consuming all my energy up there. You get it? So this energy flow is really very important. If there is no energy flow, first, if for example, let's not take me and the tiger. Let's take plant. If you are not eating plants, my dear children, are we going to get energy? No. So basically, we have to eat them. That is how the system works. Because whatever energy is stored in them is what makes us alive, and then we would take this energy and the other organism who eats us would be getting this. So there is a continuous energy flow, and that is very much important. And apart from energy flow, there is something that is known as nutrient cycling. All the nutrients which are stored up there has to be cycled. Okay, there is nutrient cycle that happens. For example, carbon dioxide, or basically any nutrient. You take phosphorus, everything. It's very important for cycling of these things. If it's just stuck at one place, you would not be able to maintain a stable ecosystem. So ecosystem functions as a unit in terms of all these four things. So please remember these four very important things: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, and the nutrient cycling. These are the functions of ecosystem. These are what? The functions of ecosystem. Going ahead, productivity is the first thing that we have. What do you mean by productivity? So first thing, solar energy that we see, the sun's energy that we see, my dear children, you know it is very essential. So the plants, they take the sun's energy, they store within them, and they kind of make the organic matter. You know photosynthesis, they use sunlight to make what? To make the organic matter, that is the glucose, the carbohydrates, my dear children. So solar energy is really important. And the plants, when they produce the organic matter, what do you call this as? You call this as primary production, because they are the primary guys up there who can take up the sun's light, right? So whatever they produce, it will be known as what? Primary production. So biomass, organic matter produced per unit area over time by plants during photosynthesis is known as what? Primary production. What? The amount of organic matter that the plant produces per unit area over time is known as photosynthesis, right? And the whole thing during photosynthesis is known as what? Sorry, primary production. Now, it is expressed as weight, that is gram per meter square, okay, or square meter, okay, or energy, that is kilocalories per square meter. You have to remember it. You can express in this either energy format, either weight format or energy format. Now, this is what I mean by production. Now, if I add the term rate to it, the rate of biomass production, I will call this as what? Productivity. In that, I will be including the time as well, the time that I have taken as well. So, over here it is what? It was grams per square meter, and apart from that there is what? Year. Okay, that is year here as well. So, that is a rate of the primary production, and this is known as productivity, my dear children. Now, there are different types of productivity. There is gross primary productivity, as in the total organic matter that is going to be produced by the plants. Okay, the rate of total organic matter being produced by the plants is known as gross primary productivity. Now, net primary productivity is what? For example, this is a plant. Whatever organic matter is left for the next organisms to have, my dear children, okay, available biomass for heterotrophs, as in the organisms that are going to eat this guy, is known as what? Net primary productivity. So, GPP stands for gross primary productivity, as in what the plant is producing in itself. So, will it give everything to the next organism, that is probably a rabbit? Do you think it will give everything? No, my dear children, it won't be giving everything. It would be using something for itself. Obviously, it has made the food, it has to use something for itself. So, I will call this as GPP minus RL. What is RL? That is the respiratory losses. I can also just show it as R. What is respiratory losses? All the amount of energy basically used by the plants for their own needs, as metabolism, reproduction, whatever. Okay, that comes under respiratory losses, my dear children. So, GPP minus R is something that is available for the next set of organism, and as I said, what do you call this as? Net primary productivity, available biomass for the heterotrophs, that is NPP. Will you remember this formula? So, you write NPP is equals to GPP minus R. I hope you got it. Okay. Now, these guys, rabbits have got it. Now, rabbits also will be what? Will be forming what? New organic matter with it, my dear children. They will also be producing new organic matter that will be for the next organism, that is probably a snake. So, what do you call this production as? When the rabbit is producing organic matter, you call this as secondary productivity. So, rate of formation of new organic matter by the consumer is not known as secondary productivity. So, these are primary guys. So, that is known as primary productivity when they produce something. Okay. Now, when it's going to the next organism and the next organism is producing new organic matter, my dear children, you will call this as secondary productivity. I hope this is clear. So, productivity is what? The rate of formation of biomass. Production is what? The biomass, that is everything is produced, that is within a unit of time, over per unit area, over time is known as production. The rate, when we add a term rate to it, you call it productivity. You have three types: gross primary productivity, that is the rate of production of organic matter by the plants. Okay. Now, what is net primary productivity? The available biomass for the next organism, that is heterotrophs, my dear children. But is it exactly like GPP? No. GPP will be always more. Okay, and you are going to minus certain things that the plant is going to utilize for yourself. You call it as R, where R is used for respiration losses. That is all the things that the plant do for itself. And then whatever you get is NPP, which is passed to the next organism. Now, this next organism, when it is producing its own organic matter, my dear children, the rate of production of it will be known as what? Secondary productivity. GPP will be more, NPP will be more. It will be always GPP because you are minusing something and then you are getting NPP. I hope you got it. Right. So, the functions of ecosystem are these four: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, so nutrient cycling, and then we studied about this. Okay, if production can be expressed in weight, that is this, and energy, that is this, or productivity can be expressed like this, okay, where you add the term year as well, that is you take time into consideration. Now, going ahead, what are the factors affecting the primary productivity? What do you think are the factors that would be affecting the primary productivity? Obviously, the plants in an area, the plant species in an area. For example, suppose there are two plants. Okay, the two plants, they cannot take, then there are big plants about there. They are not able to take enough amount of sunlight. Will they produce lot of things? No, my dear children. So plant species in an area, if you think that their photosynthetic capacity is less, or basically the amount of plant species that are there, that is less, obviously the primary productivity will also be less in that particular area. Now, environmental factors such as temperature, water, sunlight, all at the time it is all gloomy, the sunlight is not coming. So don't you think the primary productivity will be less? Yes. Now, the availability of nutrients, because it's not just sunlight that we need. In the case of photosynthesis, we need water, we need the ions that are dissolved in water and everything. So availability of the nutrients also matters a lot. Now the photosynthetic capacity of the plant, so I just said in over here, but same thing you can take in a different point. Why? Over here you can just consider the number of plant species that are there in an area. Over here you can consider the capacity of the plants which are there to photosynthesize. Some have a good capacity to photosynthesize, some would not be having it. So all are the factors, all these things that you see are the factors that affects what? The primary productivity of a particular area. Now, what is global productivity? The total annual NPP of biosphere, my dear children, and it's very important to know these key terms. You know what? I saw a question and I got like blew up because, why? Because I didn't expect that to come. So all these terms which are there, which numbers which are there, which is so difficult for us to remember, that can also come. So it's easy. Let's consider it is easy and let's study it anyways. So total annual, NPP, net primary productivity of biosphere is what? 170 billion tons dry weight. 170 what? Billion tons. Now ocean covers 70% of the earth but contribute only 55 billion tons. Okay, it covers what? 70% of the earth but gives what? 55 billion tons only. Rest of the productivity occurs on what? The land. Total is what? 170 billion tons, this is a dry weight, and ocean covers 70% of the earth but still produces what? 55 billion tons, and the rest of the productivity occurs on what? The land. Now going ahead with something that is known as standing crop. So this is written elsewhere, but I thought I should be teaching about that here itself. So what do you mean by standing crop? In your book there are two things, standing crop and standing state. Both of these are different. Okay, standing crop refers to the total mass of living organism or number of organism in a unit area. The total mass, my dear children, mass, okay, of living organism or the number of organism in a what? Unit area at what? Given time. So biomass is measured in fresh weight or dry weight, my dear children. Dry weight is what? More accurate as water content varies. Okay, so we take the dry weight, that will be more easy because water content will be different in different organisms. So what is standing crop? The total mass, okay, of living organisms, not organism, organisms. The total mass of living organisms or the number of organisms in a unit area per unit, say within a given time, that is known as standing crop. Okay, and it is measured preferably in dry weight. It can be measured in fresh weight as well, but you take it in dry weight because the water content would vary in different organisms. To know the exact thing, we take the dry weight. Got it? I hope this is also clear. Going ahead with the next thing. What is decomposition? So productivity is done. All the things about productivity is done. Now we are getting ahead with decomposition. What do you mean by decomposition? Decomposition means breakdown of organic matter into what? Inorganic matter. What do you mean by organic matter? The things that has CC bonds or CH bonds, my dear children, carbon-carbon bonds or carbon-hydrogen bonds, they are more complex and they are considered to be organic matter. Whereas inorganic matter means that does not have CC bond or CH bond. I'll give you a question. CO2. CO2, my dear children, there are two O's over here. I'm not making all the bonds. Tell me, is it an inorganic thing or an organic thing? It will be what? It will be an, let the question be, okay, I'll tell you the answer for this. Next, you should be answering it, okay. So, CO2, it does not have a CC bond, nor it has a CH bond, which is why this will be what? This will be inorganic. It will be inorganic. If we consider glucose, glucose has 6 carbons and 6 carbons, my dear children, attached to each other. This is what? Inorganic or organic? This will be what? Organic. Now a question for you. H2O, it is inorganic or organic? Very easy question, but still tell me in the comment section, okay. So basically, the breakdown of the complex organic matter back into inorganic substances is known as what? Decomposition. And for that, we need the help of certain organisms. First are decomposers, and the second one is detritivores. I don't know why it is not mentioned over here, but anyways, I'll explain you. So decomposers are what? Microorganisms, are what? Chinna organisms, which are bacteria and fungi, my dear children. Okay, which are what? Bacteria and fungi. They basically help in the process of decomposition. Apart from that, you have detritivores. So decomposers are different, detritivores are different. Okay, please. So detritivores are what? Those are the ones that would be feeding. Okay, they would be eating on the dead and the decaying matter. Okay, there's a difference. So basically, they are helping in the breakdown of, they are going to help in the breakdown of certain things, my dear children. Okay, detritivores are the ones that will be helping in the breakdown of that dead and decaying matter. Okay, but the rest of the things would be done by a microorganism, that is decomposers, which will be finally breaking down the organic matter into the inorganic things. So what do you mean by detritus? The dead plant and animal remains, including what? Fecal matter and everything which is left for decomposition, that is known as detritus. So the one that feeds on detritus is what? Detritivores, my dear children. Apart from that, you have decomposers as well. With time, you will get to understand each of the everything. Now, steps of decomposition. First one is fragmentation, and here comes the role of detritivores. So for example, there is an earthworm. An earthworm eats the dead and decaying thing. Okay, it's a complex thing. It is what? A complex thing. And then the earthworm will poop it outside. When it poops it outside, don't you think the bigger things which are there, the bigger particles which are there is getting broken down to smaller things? There is no reference to organic to inorganic, nothing. It's just breakdown of bigger particles to what? Smaller particles. This is known as fragmentation. You are fragmenting. This is done by detritivores such as earthworm and everything. I hope you got it. Now, leaching is there. Okay, what do you mean by leaching? The water soluble in organic nutrients, my dear children, those which are not water soluble, okay, those which are water soluble, they will what? Slowly, inorganic nutrients, they will slowly seep into the soil and precipitate as unavailable salts. It won't be visible, okay, it won't be available for us, it will be like unavailable salts deep into the different soil layers. Okay, that is known as leaching. Okay, now catabolism is where our decomposers, that is microorganisms, are going to play a big role. So catabolism is when microbial enzymes break down the detritus into simple inorganic substances. Okay, so until now, big particles into small particles, and somehow if inorganic nutrients are being formed, they are also leaching down into the soil. They are also seeping down into the soil, my dear children. Now we are talking about actual organic matter. Catabolism is a process where the microbes, my dear children, their enzymes are going to break down the detritus into what? Simple inorganic things, actually. So detritus, that is organic matter, into what? Simple inorganic substances. Now I consider the two other points as a sub part of catabolism. In that way, I think you will understand this better. So basically, when I am saying the organic matter is broken down to inorganic things, it's not a one-day process. It does not happen so fast. So basically, they reach a stage in between which is known as humus. Now humus is rich in organic matter, is in between. Okay, it is very rich in organic matter, and if it breaks down a bit more, it will be giving rise to what? Inorganic substances out there. So the formation of humus is known as what? Humification. And humus is what? The dark, amorphous, nutrient-rich, slow decomposing what? Substance that we have. So that is humification. And after that, when the humus, my dear children, when the humus is finally getting broken down, releasing the inorganic content, it is known as what? Mineralization. It is known as mineralization. So again, as I said, it's not like organic to humus is a fast process. No, organic to humus, it takes time. Okay, it takes time. And slowly what happens, humus also does not just break down into inorganic substances. Rather than that, slowly it is decomposing, and whenever it is getting broken down to release inorganic things, we call this process as what? Mineralization. So we say no, dark soil is red soil, dark soil is very important. What is dark color because of? It's because of humus. It has humus, my dear children, and humus takes a lot of time to break down. And when it is breaking down slowly, each and every day it is breaking down little by little, it is giving what? Inorganic nutrients to the soil. And what do you call this process as? You call this as mineralization. So you would be asked to basically put them in order. So first is fragmentation done by detritivores, then is leaching, where the water soluble inorganic nutrients would be going into the soil as unavailable salts. Okay. Third thing is catabolism, where the microbes come into play. Okay, they are going to break down the organic detritus into what? Simple inorganic things. And then comes humification, where we are forming what? Humus. And the fifth one, that is mineralization, where the microbes degrade the humus, releasing what? The inorganic content back into the soil. I hope you got it. So decomposition is done. Okay. Now, there are certain factors that affects decomposition, which is equally important. For everything we have certain factors. For productivity also we have factors. For this also we have factors. So the first factor is that it is a total oxygen dependent process, because it is done by aerobic bacteria. Very important. Okay, not by anaerobic bacteria. It is done by aerobic bacteria, which is why it needs oxygen. You will get this question that decomposition will be the fastest where oxygen amount is less, where this is more, where that is less. You have to choose the answer. So you should know that basically the oxygen, it is an oxygen dependent process. So obviously you need oxygen for this to happen. Now second, detritus composition. The detritus that we are going to break down, its composition also matters. Slow decomposition will be happening if the detritus is rich in lignin or chitin. Chitin and lignin are big substances. To break them down, it takes a lots of energy, okay, and also a lot of organisms. So basically it's a slow decomposition that happens over there. If you want fast decomposition, the detritus should be rich in what? Nitrogen and the sugars. Okay, nitrogen and the sugars. So slow decomposition if the detritus is rich in what? Lignin and chitin, my dear children, and fast decomposition will be seen if they are rich in nitrogen and sugars. Now talking about the climatic factors. Warm and moist condition is very much necessary for faster decomposition. It should be warm and should be moist condition. Now low temperature and anaerobic conditions, my dear children, that means low temperature as in it's cold, and anaerobic as in there is no oxygen, it will slow down decomposition, leading to what? Organic matter build up. The organic material which will be there, it will be building up rather than getting broken down. I hope it's clear. So you tell me one very important thing, okay, now itself. So the sea, in the sea, do you think this decomposition is going to occur in a faster rate or in a slower rate? In the sea, do you think decomposition will be occurring in a faster rate or a slower rate? Tell me the answer for this. And this is a part of this particular chapter as well. Okay, now I have explained you certain things, so you should be knowing about it. Okay, so anyways, three factors you have to remember. First is oxygen dependent. Second thing, if it is the detritus is rich in lignin and chitin, it will be very slow. Rather, if it's rich in nitrogen and sugar, it will be a bit fast. Okay, climatic factors, the climatic factor that we need is warm and moist condition. Okay, if it is low temperature and anaerobic condition, my dear children, there will be build-up of organic matter because decomposition will be very slow. Okay, so these are the three things, please remember it. Going ahead. Are you aware of this? So there is Abhyas KCET test series and Lakshya KCET crash course. I'm sorry for scaring you guys. Okay, I didn't expect it to come now. Okay, anyways. So a lot of you might have already registered in Abhyas, my dear children. Still a lot of you have confusion as in how it works. You are very free to ask us in the comment section. We will be replying to it. Okay, now listen to me carefully. What is Abhyas test series? Abhyas test series consists of 35 tests. Okay, for your KCET preparation, exclusively for your KCET preparation, my dear children. It will include both PU1 as well as PU2 syllabus. So you do not have to worry about anything. Okay, and there will be part test and there will be full length test. Part test as in certain chapters will be clubbed together and given as a part test. Full length means all the chapters will be given, just like your exam condition. You will be getting full length test as well. Now this will be separate for physics, chemistry, mathematics and biology. So biology is there. Please, anyone who likes biology even a bit, you can also register. And now after giving the part test, it's not like we will forget. Okay, we are going to give you the video solutions as well, so that if anyone has any doubt, you will we will try to explain you. Yeah, and there are doubt clarification classes also where we will be coming live and asking you whether you have doubt, and if you have doubt, you can solve it with us. Okay, and there will be revision videos and everything up there. Okay, so these are the things that you get in Abhyas KCET test series. I think it's a must buy test series. Why? Because it is available in rupees 1499. No, it is available in 1498. 1499 was one where you included PU2 test series. Now PU2 is over, so you do not need PU2. So 1 rupees was for PU2 test series. Okay, we were actually planning to give it for free, but you should know the value, so we gave 1 rupees for that. Okay, so anyways, so it is 1498 rupees, my dear children. So I think you should buy it. You should, and it's not like you just buy it and keep it. You have to practice it regularly. The user interface and all, it's pretty cool. You have a strict time bound thing situation. 60 minutes will be given for one paper, where wrong, right, you will be given multiple choices question. You have to select. It will be just like your exam condition, so it will be more good for you to understand a lot of things. How does exam work, what is your speed, what is your accuracy, and things like that. Okay, now Lakshya KCET crash course is also available, which is a 21-day crash course, my dear children, which is happening in Bangalore at 3 campuses over here. So children who are interested to learn with the teachers in the compound itself, you should be definitely registering for it. And children who are not from Bangalore, you would be given hostel facility. Please call this number, or basically you can just reach out in the description box. There are links, go there, apply there, and also if you have any doubts, as I said, you can put it down in the comment section below. Works? So wishing you all the best for your KCET preparation. Do take an informed decision. Now, the next thing that we have is energy flow. So we are done with productivity, we are done with decomposition, and now this third function of ecosystem was energy flow, my dear children. So energy flow and trophic levels, this is a topic as of now. So source of energy is what? What is a major source of energy? Ma'am, glucose. Glucose is a major source of energy, is it? No, Baba. Where do you get glucose from? From the plants basically. Okay. So basically plants are the one that makes the organic matter, and we just eat the plants, and that's how we get glucose and everything. Right. Now, what helps the plants to make the food? It is what? Sun. Okay, so what? Sun. So sun is the primary source of energy for all the ecosystem, except what? Deep sea hydrothermal ecosystem, where sun would not be reaching up there. Okay, anyways, so less than 50% of the solar radiation is what? Photosynthetically active radiation. So it's not like the entire radiation, solar radiation, is useful for photosynthesis. No, 50% of the solar radiation is only 50% is what? Photosynthetically active radiation, which you call as PAR. Okay, now plants capture only 2 to 10% of this PAR, okay, which sustains all the life forms. Isn't it miraculous? Yes. Now these terms again very important. Okay, in total solar radiation, only 50% we are going to take for photosynthetically active radiation. Now in this 50%, only 2 to 10% will be there for what? By the plants, will be captured by the plants for the process of photosynthesis. Now I want you to understand one thing, that is energy flow is always unidirectional. From the sun, the plants capture it. From the plants, the animals capture it, and it goes on. It does not come in all the ways, my dear children. It's always unidirectional, and this is something that you have to remember. Now, there are certain laws governing the energy flow. Okay, first law of thermodynamics. Do you know that energy is neither created nor destroyed, only transformed from one form to another? So, from the sun, we get light energy. Now, plants capture this light energy. Okay, can it destroy it? No. Rather, it transforms into the next thing, that is what? Chemical energy, that is ATP, and that is what we utilize. You get it? So basically, or chemical energy as ATP, or the bonds between the glucose molecules, anything that will be a sort of chemical energy that we get. So basically, sun's energy, light energy is converted to what? Chemical energy, and that is being transferred. So this is one very important law that plays a major role in what? Understanding the energy flow. And then there is another thing, that is second law of thermodynamics, which says that, I won't go with this particular statement, rather I will say every time there is an energy transfer, there is an increase in entropy. There is an increase in entropy. My dear children, what do you mean by that? So basically, whenever I say that energy is transformed from one organism to another, do you think it's 100% success? 100% of energy that is by me goes to the next organism. Is it like that? No. Some energy will be lost. Okay, some energy will be lost as heat or anything, and this will lead to what? Disturbances in the ecosystem, in the energy level that is up there. You get it? So this is the second law of thermodynamics. So we know two things, that is energy cannot be destroyed, it can be transferred and all. was transformed and all, and that is happening in our ecosystem. Light to chemical energy is being formed. Second thing, whenever energy transfer occurs between two organisms, it cannot be 100% efficient, my dear children. It cannot be 100% efficient. You do not need to learn about entropy, this and that. Just understand it is not 100% efficient. Some energy will be lost as heat, or the plants or the organisms which are passing in on, they will also be utilizing it for themselves. So you should know these two things. Okay, these two things, just understand it. Now, trophic levels in an ecosystem. You have certain levels in which different organisms are there, right? So the first level, my dear children, is occupied by producers, and producers are known as autotrophs. Why? Autotrophs as in the one that obtain their own or make their own nutrition, their food. So producers are the one, they make their own food, my dear children. So they occupy the first trophic level. They occupy the first trophic level. Now, in the case of terrestrial ecosystem, that is land ecosystem, what are the organisms that occupies the first trophic level in us? The plants, the shrubs, and all these things, right? Herbaceous and the woody plants that we have. Now, in aquatic ecosystem, what is the one that occupies the first trophic level? Remember, the first trophic level will be always will be the one that takes in the sun's energy and stores it. Okay, so what is it? In the case of terrestrial, it is herbaceous and woody plants, but in the case of aquatic ecosystem, it will be what? Phytoplankton, algae and higher plants, my dear children. Mostly reference is given to what? Phytoplankton. So phytoplankton, always remember, you might be asked to make an ecosystem chain, you should be knowing it. Phytoplankton is the one that captures sun's energy in the aquatic ecosystem, my dear children, just like how plants do it in terrestrial ecosystem. Now, consumers are what? Consumers occupies the next trophic level. So, over here, producers are eaten by the consumers, and consumers are heterotrophs. Heterotrophs means they cannot make their own food, they depend on others. Hetero means others. They depend on others for food. Who are the others? The producers. So in consumers also you have different levels, my dear children. You have primary consumers that will first come and consume this producer. Will come consume this particular producer. So this is a rabbit. Suppose this is a rabbit. Now, primary consumers are eaten up by the secondary consumers. Who are those? For example, I take it as snake. This is what? The secondary consumer. Then the secondary consumer are eaten up by the next consumer, which is what? Tertiary consumer. Let's take it as eagle. You get it? This is how it goes. This is how this particular thing goes. So primary consumers are herbivores usually, because they have to eat plants. Either they can be herbivores or they can be omnivores. Omnivores eat both plants and animals, okay? But mostly it is herbivores only, such as insects, birds, mammals, mollusks, okay? Now secondary consumers are carnivores feeding on what? The herbivores, okay? And the tertiary consumers are the one that feeds over here. Okay, so always remember, producer level in terrestrial ecosystem, it is plants, okay, or woody plants or shrubs, whatever you have, or grasses, okay. But in aquatic ecosystem, it is phytoplankton. It is what? Phytoplankton. In the aquatic ecosystem, what is the primary consumer? If this is phytoplankton, what is the primary consumer? It is zooplankton. The zooplankton feeds on phytoplankton. So zooplankton feeds on phytoplankton, and zooplankton are eaten by small fishes. Small fishes are eaten by large fishes. And here what do you have? You have phytoplankton. So phytoplankton is a producer. So trophic level 1. Trophic level 2, primary consumer, that is zooplankton. Secondary consumer, that is small fishes. Tertiary consumer, that is what? Large fishes. I hope you got it. And energy flow is always going to be what? Unidirectional, from sun to the producers, then to these organisms. Okay? And two laws of energy is going to, thermodynamics is going to match over here. Whatever energy is there, it is going to get transformed. It is not going to get created or destroyed. Okay. Now, next thing, every energy transfer that happens, it is not 100% efficient. So, whatever energy this has, less amount of energy will be occupied by this organism. It will not be having more than this. Okay. Now, going ahead with the next thing, types of food chain. You have grazing food chain and you have detritus food chain. Grazing food chain, it starts from producers. So producers are eaten by herbivores, herbivores by carnivores. This is a major pathway in aquatic ecosystem. I know you would not believe it, but yes, this is the major pathway in aquatic ecosystem. Again, a very important question. We never expected. Okay. Now, detritus food chain, my dear children. Detritus food chain means begins with dead organic matter, that is detritus, and then decomposes, break them down. This is basically known as detritus food chain and is a major pathway, okay, major pathway in terrestrial ecosystem, that is land ecosystem. So you all expected that grazing is the one that is dominant over here. It's not. So decomposers break down organic matter into inorganic nutrients in over here in detritus food chain. Now my dear children, the question that I asked you, in sea and all, decomposition, does it happen really fast or is it slow? It will happen slowly. Why? Because if you go beneath the day, it's very cold, and for decomposition what do you need? You need a warm and moist atmosphere, which is why detritus food chain is not a dominant one in aquatic ecosystem. Instead, you have grazing food chain, which is more dominant, whereas detritus food chain is what more dominant in terrestrial ecosystem because it has all the necessary environmental conditions up there. Okay. Now, there is one very important rule, that is 10% law of energy or 10% rule of energy. It says that only 10% of the energy from one trophic level is transferred to the next. The rest is lost as heat, the second law of thermodynamics, through respiration and metabolic activities. So, it can be lost as heat, otherwise the plant or organism which is utilizing it, it will be utilizing itself for respiration, metabolic activities and everything. Now, this limits the number of trophic levels in the grazing food chain. In the grazing food chain, this will limit the number of trophic levels. Why, my dear children? So, this is again a very important question. So, suppose the producers had 2000, or let's make it 20,000 kilojoules of energy. Only 10% of this will be going to the primary consumers. What is 10% of 20,000? 10 divided by 100 into 20. So, 0, 0 cancel, 0, 0 cancel. What do you have? You have 2000. So, 2000 kilojoule will be getting, transferred to what? Rabbit. Rabbit will be having only 2000 because only 10% will be going. Because rest of 10%, because rest of the 90% will be lost as heat, also will be used by the organism itself, right? Now, again 10% you say it is 200 kilojoules. Now, again 10% it will be 20 kilojoules. If one more organism occupies this, it will be 2 kilojoules. Now, if any such organism comes above, do we have any energy to give to that organism, my dear children? No, which is why the number of trophic levels is what limited. It would not be going beyond 4 to 5. It is not going to go beyond what? 4 to 5. Please understand that. So, only 10% of energy from one trophic level is transferred to the next. The rest is lost as heat through respiration and metabolic activities. This limits the number of trophic levels in the grazing food chain. Now, limitation in grazing versus detritus food chain. So, grazing food chain has limited trophic levels due to what? Energy loss at each level. Detritus food chain is less restricted as decomposers recycle nutrients, making energy available again for what? Producers. So, that is again not very this thing important, but at least this thing we should be knowing. Okay. So, in aquatic ecosystem, what is dominant? Grazing. In terrestrial, detritus. Okay. Now, ecological pyramids. Ecological pyramids, very, very important. So, ecological pyramids represent the relationship between organisms at different trophic levels in terms of number, biomass or what? Energy. So, it is a graphical representation or what? Pictorial representation of the relationship between organisms at different trophic level. Now, pyramid of number is there. What does pyramid of number show? It shows the number of individuals at each trophic level. It's very easy. It's very easy to understand. So, over here if you see this particular picture. So, we have producers almost 58,42,000 organisms are up over here. And the organisms that feeds it, primary consumers are less. So, this is pyramid of number, which is why this is what? An upright thing. Over here in this particular ecosystem, the number of producers are the one that is more in amount. Now, if a question comes that basically there is an ecosystem where the number of primary consumer is more and the number of producer is less, the number of plants is 5, the primary consumer is 10. How will be that ecosystem, my dear children? How will be that ecosystem? It will be inverted. So, here the producers are less, but this is more. So, pyramid of number can be inverted or it can be upright as well. Always remember that. Can be upright or inverted depending on the ecosystem. Example, a large tree supports many herbivores. So, a big tree is there, one tree is there, but it has so many organisms that is dependent on it. So, obviously, this will be more in number. So, you should be not blindly believing that pyramid of number will be always upright. No, you have to see through your question really, really well what are they asking for. Okay. Now, we have pyramid of biomass. So, it talks about the total biomass at each trophic level. So, usually again it will be what? Upright. Usually again it will be upright because if you talk about plants have a higher biomass than the organism feeding on it. So, obviously it is upright. But What about aquatic ecosystem where phytoplanktons are there? Phytoplanktons are chuttu organisms, my dear children. What biomass will they be having? And the other organisms are eating it completely again and again. So their amount is getting lesser. So in their case also, what will happen? The primary consumers will be more, but the producers will be less. Again, what do you get? You get an inverted pyramid. You get what? Inverted pyramid. So it is usually upright, example forest, okay, but inverted in aquatic ecosystem because phytoplankton has less biomass than zooplankton or small fishes or what say large fishes. Got it? Now pyramid of energy. Pyramid of energy, you cannot do anything. There is no inverted, there is no upright, only upright. Only. So this is the example of inverted biomass pyramid. Now when you talk about pyramid of energy, it has to be always upright because as I said, the producers are the only ones that can capture sun's energy, and that organism that captures it has the most amount of energy. Then comes the other organism. According to 10% rule, it becomes less and less. So obviously it has to be upright. There is no other way. So always upright as energy decreases with energy transfer. Most accurate pyramid as it follows the law of thermodynamics, shows energy flow at each trophic level. Okay, so we have 3 pyramids. I hope you remember it. Now, limitations of ecological pyramids. Obviously, there will be some limitation to it as well. So, what are the limitations? Do not consider species at multiple trophic levels. For example, the same organism can have multiple trophic levels. For example, I am putting an omnivore. Plant is fed by an omnivore. This omnivore can be eating a plant or also an animal. So, it can be in different trophic level also. But am I considering that? No. So that is a big problem. Now, assume a simple food chain ignoring complex food webs. So do we actually have in nature just simple food chains? Do you think so? Does this snake always eat the rabbit? Do you think so? No, my dear children. The snake can either eat the rabbit or it can eat a rat also. So there are what? Parallel food chains. There is food web. The interconnected food chains are known as what? Food web that is happening in the nature. So here it assumes a simple food chain ignoring what? Complex food web. So that is a big limitation of ecological pyramids. Apart from that, they do not include decomposers, even though they play a what? Very crucial role in nutrient cycling. So that is also not included, which is why these things are a big limitation in the whole ecological pyramids. Do not consider species at multiple trophic levels, assume a simple food chain ignoring what? Complex food webs, and do not include decomposers as well. Sad thing, right? Now, going ahead. Ecological succession. The next thing. Now, that is a different thing, off topic. Okay, so we studied productivity, then decomposition, then energy flow, and here we have ecological succession. What do you mean by that? It is a gradual and predictable change in species composition in an area over time. It is what? Gradual and predictable change that we see in the species composition. It results in a climax community, which is near equilibrium with the nature. As in, all this area that we are living in, my dear children, we are now living over here. So what are we? We are the climax community, which is what? Near equilibrium with the environment, which is why we are able to survive. Some species increase in population while others decline or disappear during what? Succession. Succession is basically the stages that we have. The gradual and the unpredictable changes that is occurring in the species composition over time, my dear children, in a particular area. Now, Cirre is there. What do you mean by? There are certain key terms that you should know. Cirre, the entire sequence of communities during succession. You know the sequence, the entire sequence is known as cirre. Now, cirral stages means the intermediate communities in the succession. All the in between whatever communities you got, they are known as cirral stages. Cirre means entire sequence of communities, and cirral stages means the intermediate communities that you see in a succession. Climax community, that is most important. The stable, the last one, the stable, the mature community at the final stage of succession. You will get to understand about it bit by bit when I talk about it. Okay. So there are 2 types of successions, primary and secondary. Primary is when it starts in an area where there is no pre-existing life. For example, a bare rock, newly cooled lava. Okay, new pond. There is no life over here. There is no life over here. From here, there is a new life coming up. This is known as primary succession. So, soil formation takes hundreds to thousands of years before the plant life can actually establish. So, primary succession happens first, my dear children. Now, what do you mean by secondary succession? For example, at one particular area, there used to be organisms living up here, but they all died. The biotic community, my dear children, it's all gone. What are you left with? Just the soil. Just the soil is there. Now, soil is very important. Soil is very important because it will have nutrients. You get it? From these nutrients, again, if I put something, anything can grow up. So here, the growth of organism can be comparatively faster. So this is secondary succession. Occurs in area where a biotic community was destroyed but the soil remains, such as abundant farmlands, burned forests, flooded lands, etc. So it is faster than primary succession. So it's a new area just having bare rock. From here the life is starting. This is known as primary succession. In the second area where I had a forest, I burned it all. Now I do not have anything up there, just the soil. Because you have the soil, my dear children, obviously there can be life forms, it can be supported really fast and it will be obviously faster. Secondary succession is going to be faster, primary is going to be comparatively slower. Why? Because soil formation itself takes a lot of time. We get it? Now, there are succession of plants. There are two. Okay, hydrac succession and xerac. Hydrac means it occurs in wet areas, in water bodies. In water bodies, it progresses from what? Hydric, very wet, to mesic, moderate water condition. Slowly, changes are happening over here in water bodies such that they are changing from very wet condition to what? Moderate water condition. This is mesic condition. You call it what? Mesic condition. Similarly, xerac succession. Xerac means it occurs in dry areas such as deserts, bare rocks and things like that. There, it is progressing from xeric to mesic condition, that is moderate water condition. This is known as xerac succession. Both succession leads to what? Mesic conditions, creating a balanced ecosystem at the end. And the first organisms which would be invading this area, my dear children, for initiating the process of succession is known as pioneer species. They are what? Pioneer species. They will come and basically start off life up there. So they can show, if they are going to the water bodies, you call them hydrac succession. If they are going to the dry areas and making the life up there, it is known as xerac succession. Okay. Now over here, primary succession, if for example, if for the first time they are coming over here, this is primary succession happening over here. Okay, in the hydrac condition, this is a primary succession. For the first time they are coming and doing all this thing. You get it? For the second time if they come, you don't need to come. Well, let me not confuse you guys. So primary and secondary is this. Okay, where it's a totally new thing, you call it primary. If there is already pre-existing, it was there, soil is there at least. Okay, soil is there at least, you call this as secondary succession. Happens there. Okay, hydrac as in there is only water, you are making into almost moderate water condition, that is mesic condition. Xerac as in it is occurring in dry areas, you are converting into xeric to mesic condition. Now pioneer species are the ones to basically invade the bare area for the first time and initiate the process of succession. Now primary succession and rock and on water. Now you will understand things better. Okay, so on rock, in rock there is nothing. Okay, there is bare area where I am seeing just rocks. What will happen over here? Lichens comes to play a major role. What do lichen do? Lichen secrete acids, my dear children. The lichens, they secrete acid. Lichen is a combination of what? Algae and a fungus. So it secretes acids and this acid is going to weather the rock and help in the soil formation. Now the soil has formed, what will come in? The things that need less water requirements and things like that, such as bryophytes. Okay, so bryophytes will be what? Growing in the small soil patches that is formed by what? Lichen. And after that it will be followed by higher plants, leading towards stable climax forest community. Now as I say, it seems like it's a fast process, but it is not at all a fast process, my dear children. Please understand that. Okay, so I just said that biophytes does not need much water. It's not like that. Okay, just that they can be supported easily up there. That's all. So you do not think like bryophytes do not need water. Please don't think like that. So anyways, so they do not have the vascular system as such. They do not have a predominant vascular system to transport the water and things like that. So they can sustain. Okay. So anyways, lichens secrete what? Acids to weather rocks and help what? Soil formation, and then bryophytes come in and then the higher plants come in, making what? A stable climax community. So primary succession happening on what? The rock. For example, this is in the xerac area. Okay, then dry to what's a moderate water condition. Now getting ahead, primary succession in water. So pioneer species are what? Phytoplanktons. Over here the pioneer species of phytoplanktons. Over here it was lichens. Okay, now phytoplanktons are replaced by rooted submerged plants. They have roots and they are submerged plants, and then these rooted submerged plants are replaced by rooted floating plants. So there are floating plants which have roots. So over here you can see, just a second. So these are phytoplankton. First of all, you have phytoplanktons which are microorganisms. You won't be able to see them also. Okay, not microorganism, but you won't be able to see them. Now going ahead, submerged plant stage, where basically all of it are inside the water and they have this thing. Now you would be having rooted floating stage. They have roots and they are floating. Okay, then you would be having free floating stage as well. You would be having free floating stage. Then you have reed swamp stage. Over here I have written reed swamp stage, then marsh meadow stage, then scrub, then trees, and then climax forest. Just if you can, just go through it once. Okay, there's nothing to explain much. So first thing, you have phytoplankton. Phytoplanktons are replaced by rooted submerged plants, and then free floating rooted plants, and then rooted floating plants, and then free floating plants. And then we have reed swamp, then we have marsh meadow, then we have scrub, then we have trees, and then climax community. So the end result is that the water body converts into land over time. So this is example of xeric succession and the primary succession happening in water. Okay, sorry, not xeric, hydrac. And this is an example of xeric succession and also primary succession happening on rocks. Now we have secondary succession. Occurs in areas where a biotic community was destroyed but soil remains, such as abundant farmlands. We already discussed it, right? Faster than primary succession, since soil and some propagules like seeds and roots might be already present. Climax community is reached more quickly over here in secondary succession. Okay, so I hope that is also done. So ketones, succession, this, okay. Now comes nutrient cycling, the last phase of this particular chapter. So what is the importance of nutrients, my dear children? That is the only thing that will allow us to sustain, right? So organism requires a constant supply of nutrients for growth, for reproduction, for all our bodily function. Now the amount of nutrients present in the biomass at a given time is called standing state. It is different from standing crop. Standing crop is the total biomass at a particular area at a given time. Total biomass of living organisms at a particular area at a given time, that is standing crop. Standing state is what? The amount of nutrients present in the soil, okay, standing state, as everything is with SS, so soil, okay, soil is also with S. So amount of nutrients present in the soil at a given time is known as standing state. Standing state varies across ecosystem and the seasons. Now nutrient recycling, nutrients are never lost, please know that. Nutrients that you see, my children, are never lost, they are recycled indefinitely within the ecosystem. The movement of nutrients, what do you call this, through different ecosystem components is known as nutrient cycling. You also call this as biogeochemical cycles. Okay, biogeochemical cycles or nutrient cycling, either way. So nutrients are never lost, they are recycled indefinitely within the ecosystem, and the movement of nutrients through different ecosystem components are known as nutrient cycling. Got it? Now the types of nutrient cycling, you have gaseous cycle and you have sedimentary cycle. Gaseous as in the reservoir, okay, whatever gas is there, it is there in the atmosphere. Example, you have carbon cycle, you have nitrogen cycle. Talking about the next thing, that is sedimentary cycle. So reservoir exists in the earth's crust, not in the atmosphere but in the earth's crust. For example, sulfur cycle or phosphorus cycle. Just give me a second, someone has come. Yes, so I hope it's clear. Gaseous cycle where the reservoir exists in the atmosphere. Okay, sedimentary cycle with the reservoir. Okay, that is the amount of all the nutrients, my dear children. Where is it located? In the earth's crust. Okay, so let's get into the first gaseous cycle that we have, that is carbon cycling. So what is the importance of carbon in living organisms? Carbons, you know, they make up 49% of the dry weight of an organism, 49% of the dry weight of an organism, and the second most abundant component after water in living beings. In the living beings, like us, is the second most, what's the abundant component after water. 49% of us dry weight, okay, if we say it's made up of carbon. Now global carbon distribution, why have I included this term? Because I never know it can come, as I said before. 17% of the global carbon is found dissolved in the oceans, my dear children, which helps regulate atmospheric CO2 levels. So 71% of the global carbon, where is it? In the oceans. It is dissolved in the ocean. The atmosphere contains only 1% of the total global carbon. Okay. The atmosphere contains only 1% of the total global carbon. Fossil fuels serves as a carbon reservoirs as well. Cool. So these are where all do you find carbon? These are places. 71% of the global carbon, where is it? In the ocean. Okay. Now atmosphere contains how much percentage of carbon? 1%. Okay. Fossil fuels is what? A reservoir of carbon. Now carbon cycling, how does it process? So carbon moves through atmosphere, ocean, living and the dead organisms, because they are all located over here, right? Annually about 4 into 10 to the power 13 kg kilograms of carbon is fixed in the biosphere via what? Photosynthesis. Okay, so by photosynthesis, the plants are fixing almost this much amount of carbon, 4 into 10 to the power 13 kilograms of carbon. Now, CO2 is returned to the atmosphere through. So, it is fixed by the plants, right? Now, how does it return? Respiration by producers and consumers. So, while they respire, the plants also, while they respire, they give out what? CO2, my dear children. And also us, when we respire, we give CO2. So, for example, we consume the plant, whatever energy was there in the plant, whatever carbon fix was there in the plant, it is there in us now. When we are giving out this carbon back to the nature. Decomposition. Okay, for example, I die, I have all the carbon, I died. Or plant is there, it has all the carbon, it died. So, basically, while decomposition happens, isn't it giving back the carbon? Isn't it giving back the carbon? Yes. Now, burning of wood, forest fires and combustion of fossil fuels. At this point of time also, wood basically a part of a plant. Okay, forest fire. Anywhere, wherever the carbon is fixed, now it is all being released because of burning and everything. Volcanic activity which releases what? Carbon into the air. Some fixed carbon is lost to sediments, removing it from circulation as well. So, basically there are higher ways. You fix carbon, okay, I agreed, 4 into 10 to the power 13 kilograms of carbon is fixed by photosynthesis, but there is a way for returning this carbon also, that is respiration, that is decomposition, burning of woods, forest and everything, forest fires, not forest, okay, and then volcanic activity is also releasing. Remember that some amount of fixed carbon is lost to sediments, it would not be there in this thing. Okay, now human impact on carbon cycle. Deforestation and burning of fossil fuels, my dear children, for energy and transport have increased the CO2 level. Have increased what? The amount of CO2 in the atmosphere beyond our control. Now, when it happens, what happens? It will lead to what? Global warming, with the amount of CO2 is way too much, leading to big problems. So, in carbon cycling, only this is mentioned in your NCERT, and you have to stay until what your NCERT says, nothing beyond that. So, there is not a big cycle that is being mentioned up over here. So, we do not have to go beyond that. So, please remember, if we see our dry weight, 49% of it is what? Carbon. Okay. And now, second most abundant component after water in our body is what? Again, carbon. Where is the carbon mostly found? 70% of the global carbon is in the ocean, 1% in the atmosphere, rest in the fossil fuels. Okay. Now, carbon cycling, 4 into 10 to the power 13 kilograms of carbon is fixed by photosynthesis, but we give it back to the nature also. By respiration, by decomposition, by burning of wood, the forest fires, combustion of fossil fuels and everything, and volcanic activity as well. Now, human impact, very bad, because of deforestation and burning of fossil fuels that is happening, there is increased CO2 levels, my dear children. Okay, so usually why deforestation increases CO2? Because plants, even though respire carbon dioxide outside, they also utilize it for what? For the process of photosynthesis. So, deforestation would increase the amount of CO2 level, and if it is increased by too much, it will lead to global warming. Now, going ahead with the next thing, that is phosphorus cycling. So, that was an example of gaseous cycling, because the reservoir is basically the atmosphere. Now, phosphorus cycling, over here the reservoir is what? The Earth's crust. So, importance of phosphorus, essential for biological membranes, nucleic acids and energy transfer. Do our DNA has phosphorus? Yes, my dear children. Does ATP has phosphorus? ATP, adenosine triphosphate, does it have phosphorus? Yes. So, obviously over here it is very important. Required for shells, bones and teeth in animals. So, how do we get it back? Natural reservoir found in the rocks as phosphates. Weathering of rocks releases phosphates into what? Soil. So, it is found in the rocks, and when you weather it, so what happens, my dear children, is that when we die, all our bones and everything goes to the soil layers. Now, in the soil layers, they will become rocks, they will become this and that. So, everything is stored in the rocks. Now, when the rocks, that is rock is now a part of what? The Earth's crust. Now, when the rock is going to weather down, okay, it is going to break down, it is going to release back the phosphates into what? The soil. So, the movement of phosphorus, how does it occur? Decomposes. First thing, phosphate solubilizing bacteria break down dead organism, returning what? Phosphorus to the soil. Plants absorb phosphates from the soil. Okay, herbivores and plants obtain phosphorus by consuming the plants. Again, we die, the decomposers will be releasing phosphate back to the soil, okay, and then the plants will be consuming it, we will be eating it, again we will die, and the same thing goes on again and again and again. And also, rocks and also the rocks and all will be having amount of phosphorus. That is a major component of phosphorus that will also keep on weathering as well. Okay. Now, differences between carbon and phosphorus cycle. No atmospheric gaseous phase in phosphorus cycle, my dear children, unlike carbon. Phosphorus does not return to the atmosphere through what? Through respiration. Do we respire out phosphorus? No. Atmospheric phosphorus input via rainfall is much smaller than carbon inputs. Okay, via rainfall also atmospheric phosphorus input is very less. So no atmospheric gaseous exchange is there, my dear children, nor we are giving back to the nature via respiration, nor there is what say phosphorus rainfall happening up there. So comparatively, if you see, there's only one way, that is the rocks which are there. The rocks and the decomposers doing their work. So over here you have a little picture. Okay, so rock minerals, the weathering, it will be there in the soil. Now from here what will happen, uptake will be happening by the producers will be eaten up by the consumers, and also producers litter fall, as in their leaves and everything will be falling down, that will be part of a detritus. Even consumers, when they die, that will also be part of detritus. Again decomposition will be happening, it will be in the soil solution. So this chain is definitely happening. Okay, in the soil solution, where do you get it apart from this? Where do you get it from? The first thing is rock minerals. You got it from here, then you pass down, then the whole cycle is occurring again and again and again. I hope you understood the basic funda at least. Now again, this is the thing that is given in your NCERT, not beyond it. Okay, not beyond it. Fine. So will any one of us say that phosphorus we get from respiration also? No. Where do we have it? Earth's crust. How do we get it? By weathering. Or basically whatever phosphorus is there in our organisms also, in our body, when we die, the decomposers act on it and give it back to the soil. From the soil it is taken to the plants. Plants are being eaten up by herbivores or carnivores. Okay, not plants are eaten by herbivores or carnivores, by herbivores only, and these herbivores are eaten by carnivores. Later we all die, again the same thing repeats. So that's all about phosphorus cycling. Now the last thing, small thing given in NCERT, ecosystem services. Economic valuation of ecosystem services. Difficult to determine but crucial for sustainability if you want to find the economic value. Okay, so Robert Constanza and team estimated the value of ecosystem services. No one could ever do that, but he did it. Okay, total estimated value was US dollars 33 trillion per year, almost twice the global GNP of US, that is 18 trillion dollars. You get it? So this is our value, ecosystem value. This is done by Robert Constanza and the team. Robert Constanza and the team, total estimated value US dollars 33 trillion per year. Okay, so with that we complete the chapter. Chutku people, okay, so we started talking about ecosystem. We spoke the functions of ecosystem: productivity, decomposition, energy flow, nutrient cycling and everything. Then we spoke about productivity, GPP minus R is what NPP, okay, and we spoke about standing crop, the total mass of the living organism. We spoke about the factors affecting the primary productivity, that is plant species, okay, their photosynthetic capacity, the environmental factors, the availability of nutrients, everything. Okay, now the total NPP of biosphere is what? 170 billion tons. Okay, total net primary productivity annual one is 170 billion tons, and oceans, they cover 70% of the earth, but they give 55 billion tons. Okay, then we spoke about decomposition. In decomposition you have certain step fragmentation, then leaching, then catabolism, then humification, then mineralization. There are certain factors, you need oxygen. Okay, it is going to be slow in when the organism are rich in lignin and chitin. Climatic factors, warm and moist atmosphere will be giving rise to faster decomposition rather than slow one. And then the energy flow, okay, the producers are there, consumers are there. What are the primary producers? In the case of aquatic ecosystem, it is what? Phytoplanktons. Okay, there is 10% rule, which is why we cannot have more than 5 or 4 trophic levels, my dear children. Ecological pyramids are there. Pyramid of number and pyramid of biomass can be inverted. Okay, pyramid of number being inverted, one example is big tree supporting so many organisms. Okay, so one plant supporting so many other organisms. And biomass inversion, you can see in aquatic ecosystem where the phytoplanktons have the little biomass apart from the others. All this thing. Limitations of ecological pyramids: not consider species at multiple trophic levels, not consider decomposers. Okay, assume a simple food chain, but do we have that? No, we have food web. Then ecological succession, we have primary succession happening in a bare area, such as bare rock and things like that. Secondary succession, where life forms were there but it's not there now, we have at least soil. It will be faster in secondary succession. Okay, then we have xerarch and hydrarch. Xerarch means dry to mesic condition, hydrarch means wet to mesic conditions. Pioneer species, the first organism to come and basically start off something. In the case of rocks, the pioneer species is lichens, my dear children. In the case of water, the pioneer species is phytoplanktons. Okay, then nutrient cycling, we spoke about that. Carbon cycling, just spoke about that now, so I'm not repeating it again. And with that we complete this particular chapter as well, that is ecosystem. And with that I think we are completing all the chapters of PU2. So I hope it was helpful. Do let me know if you have any doubts. I'm here to solve all your doubts, my dear children. And also do let me know if you found this particular video to be useful. And do not forget to like, share and subscribe. Always remember that the Abhyas Test Series link is given in the description. Go check it out if you need it. Yes. So bye-bye. Take care.